Hey, welcome back to our channel. We are at Vintage Metalworks in Commerce, Georgia with Jimmy Davis and his team. And I know you've seen this photo before. These cars are making progress. And one thing we want to talk about today, I get a lot of calls about where should people have their vehicles restored at. Maybe they have rust issues, they're out of square. Somebody's been fooling around with it and it doesn't quite look good anymore. So we thought we'd ask the professor here how he gets this car squared up. So here is a car that, you know, we certainly have validated. This is a Superbird, and you know, obviously it's being salvaged. Jimmy and his team have brought this back from the Grim Reaper. It's completely been taken apart. It's been squared up, and now what they're going to do is start putting it back together. You see structurally the K-member, torsion bar mount are all good. Rear frame rail is good. So the integrity of all this is really solid. And you'll see more of this Superbird as time goes on. What we don't want to take you over to is this Daytona that you have seen before. And we're here with Jimmy, and Carlos is in the back working on noses like y'all. Hey Carlos, say hi to everybody.
Hey, how you doing?
He's busy building noses. The boss has got him working. So this is a Daytona that was in a very similar situation to this vehicle, maybe even slightly worse. So the question that I was talking to Jimmy about is, you know, a lot of restoration shops, you know, they take in vehicles and, you know, they may have some proper bracing or what they feel is proper bracing for a car. And when they go to reassemble it, they run into all kind of issues. So Jimmy, walk me through what you have here, what you have set up. Obviously we lifted it up intentionally just so we can view it, but so you have this car set up. You know, I see each one of these fixtures points has a gauge. We have a gauge here at the front. We have a gauge in the middle, and then certainly we have a gauge at the back. So let's start out in the front here. So what do you do to ensure you have integrity of this vehicle when it hits the ground?
Well, this particular fixture right here will qualify just as the K-member goes into the front rails. This fixture right here will qualify the front location to establish if, for example, this particular car was hit in the front. The entire front end of this car had to be removed all the way back to the torsional cross member here, because it was involved in an accident in the late 70s, and the car structurally was compromised all the way back to the torsional cross member. It was a better fit to remove a complete front end off of another B body and then qualify it with this particular tool right here. Will qualify this. We built this tool in-house, and that ensures that the location is right, and we don't get into part of putting each component on individually because of the stack-up tolerance involved with using multiple parts. It makes it easier to build a car modularly like that, if I could answer it like that.
Yeah, so this is much more effective than just setting it on a dolly.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. It qualifies the car. You've got a datum to work off of. It's you set it up much like you would a machine shop. You have to qualify the car, and these 50-year-old cars, they're all twisted. They're for the most part, they're unibody cars, and if they've ever hit a significant pothole or a bump in the road or run over something, who's to say that the unibody itself is not out of position? So you have to qualify it. If you don't qualify it, you'll end up having problems with door fitment, roof panel fitment. The problem just gets worse the further up the car you go.
So do you start out with height gauges? Do you work off just this gauge here, or how do you initially set this up out of curiosity?
Out of curiosity, the first thing we'll do is we'll qualify the rockers in the car, and we'll get the greenhouse of the car effectively done, and then we can control these points, the rocker points, while measuring it with a height gauge is what we'll use. And then we'll also measure pin locations up on the upper A post to the top. We'll measure over pins just to make sure there's no twist in the car and that we've got equidistant on both sides of the car. And once this is qualified, then we can come back and we can qualify the rails, the front rail locations. And then lastly, if a car needs a back half taken off of it, we can we'll come in and pick up the spring hanger locations here off of a tool that we built to come in here and qualify this location here to hold the rails in place.
So this, were the rails removed on this vehicle?
No, no.
Okay, you're saying if needed.
If you had a car that had a significant twist in it, or if it needed the complete rear rail section removed, it could be done. The over-the-axle pan could be replaced, trunk pan, trunk drop-offs, inner and outer wheel houses.
So tell me a little bit about this flat beam you have here. What do we do with this thing?
This is the carbon fiber beam that a friend of mine gave me. This is what's used in the G5 Gulfstream, and these are parallels. I'll measure off of the top of these. These are about 1/10 of a millimeter in parallelism, and these are something that we use just to measure off of.
So you could put a height gauge on that
Absolutely.
and just verify.
Absolutely, measure height.
Yeah, so it looks like there's been some additions here. Beautiful spot welds.
We spot welded the car, the internal parts of the car before we put the outer quarter panels and the roof skin and all that. You know, we weld the car from the inside out.
Yeah, those are beautiful welds. You guys,
Weld through primer goes through, then and the spot welds are consistent. If you look, there's not a lot of blowout with. The spot welds are consistent throughout the car.
yep, and on the same side. So you're measuring right to left, front to back.
Yes. The car's X'd out. This particular bench is dedicated to a V body, so we really don't have to move much. This is a dedicated setup just for Chrysler V bodies.
Yeah, it's wonderful. You know, it's a pleasure to always come here to see what a differentiation is. I'm in a lot of restoration facilities, and very few, you know, have the capability and the knowledge to set up a vehicle like this to ensure its integrity. It's always a pleasure to come to visit Jimmy and his team.
Thank you, Dave.
And plus you get to learn how noses are built. I can never get enough of this. This is just spectacular work.
You can't build a car without a fixture. There's too much. Every time you remove a panel off the car, it starts moving. Too much stack of tolerance.
Yeah, that's for sure. Well, as always, Jimmy, I appreciate your time, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Dave.